Spider-Man Brand New Day has the best web slinging ever put in a live-action film, full stop. It also has the best scene of the movie built around a character who's been dead for 2 movies. And the critics are split on this thing. You're going to hear all week that it's 2 films stitched together, and I think that criticism misses what the movie's actually doing, and I'm going to make that case right now. Full spoilers from here on out. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, come back. Don't worry, I'll wait. Here's my ranking up front because I know that's what half of you came for. No Way Home, then Brand New Day, Homecoming, then Far From Home. Second place out of 4, and by the end of this video, I think you'll understand why it earned it. Let's get into it. At the world premiere, director Destin Daniel Cretton stood up and he said this movie is about the importance of having a web of connection to the people that we love. Once I heard that, the whole movie clicked into place for me because that's the thesis of this film, and it's the smartest thing about it. The web isn't just stuff that comes out of his wrists. The web is the people. And this movie proves it by taking Peters away. He's been erased from everyone's memory. He's swinging around New York, doing the job perfectly, and he's completely alone doing it. There's a line in the movie that sums up where his head is at. Peter says, Spider-Man has to do the hard thing, even if it breaks Peter's heart. That's the whole tragedy in one sentence. He's split himself in 2, and he decided the person is the one who has to lose. Every single storyline in this film is some variation of that. What happens to a person when their web is cut? And Cretton didn't just say that as a marketing line. He said his own web starts with his wife and his kids, then it extended to his family who flew in from Hawaii, to his mom at her first ever premiere, to the nearly 2,000 member crew who worked on this thing, to the cast, and then out to everybody sitting in the theater about to watch the movie. He also said the reason he wanted to make this movie in the first place was where John Watts left Peter at the end of No Way Home, a person who quite literally felt entirely alone on the planet. That was the hook for him. And I think that's the hook for this movie. That hit me personally because I'm a family man. Nothing in my life is more important than my web of connection. So a Spider-Man movie built around that idea, made by a guy who clearly means it, that's going to get me. And I really think Cretton is the MVP of this movie, and I want to give him his flowers. He made Shang-Chi, which is one of the better films of the multiverse saga, and he did there, and what he did there, he does again here. He takes a blockbuster and puts a real emotional center into it. But what surprised me is how much visual identity he stamped onto this one. This does not look like the other Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. The biggest piece of that for me is the Sony PlayStation game influence. Now, I am a huge gamer. You can actually check on my other YouTube channel. I've got video of me and my wife playing the Spider-Man video games, but those Spider-Man games are some of my favorites, and this movie speaks their language. The web bombs, the gadgets, the way he webs guys up against a wall, the flow of how he moves through a fight and through the city. Honestly, every set piece in this movie delivers. There were moments where I felt like I was watching the game come to life, and that made me happy. Now, on the same note, swinging. I said it at the top and I meant it. This is the best web slinging in any live action film ever. And what I love is that it's not ignoring what came before. There's a clear homage to the Mark Webb and the Andrew Garfield style of swinging in here. You can feel the John Watts era too, but Cretton takes all of that and pushes past it. This is the swinging these movies have been building towards for 20 years. He also does things this genre usually skips. He slows down. Composed, held moments where he stops the chaos and he lets you just look at the shot like a splash page. There's a real tribute to comics, not an Easter egg. He uses point of view, shots right up in the mask while Peter's swinging, sometimes inside of it, and then there's the more physical, in-the-suit Spider-Man that we usually don't get in these movies. Holland in the suit, standing in a scene talking. It makes him feel like he's actually there. And since we are on webs, here's my one real problem with this movie, and I want to get it out now because everything after this is going to be praised. It is a little bit nitpicky, but I'm not a fan of organic web shooters. Not in the comics, not in the live action. Listen, Peter Parker is a genius. That's foundational. He's a kid who builds his own tech in a bedroom. And the web shooters were always the cleanest, most cinematic way to show that. You watch him design, test, refine, adapt under pressure, and you understand who this person is without anybody saying it out loud. Organic webbing takes that away. And yeah, there are other ways to show his intelligence, but these films have never fully committed to showing the scope of his genius. There's a version of this character where his mind is as much a superpower as his strength, and we still haven't gotten that on screen. I mean, even here in Brand New Day, a lot of it is him using technology and like an AI assistant the whole time to calculate everything and do all of his moves. And it's like, it just takes a little bit of that genius away from him. Now, I'll be fair, we have seen this before. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man had organic webs, and it didn't hurt those films at all. Most audiences won't care, but it's genuinely interesting to think about that going forward because it changes what future movies can do with him after this. All right. That's the gripe. Here's why I loved everything else in this movie. The biggest arc in this movie is his physical transformation. And the thing I did not expect going in was how much his body is changing. His powers are surging in ways that he can't control, and it's feeding his rage. This is where the isolation stops being just emotional and turns physical. Peter's alone. He's angry about being alone. And now his own body has started expressing that anger for him, whether he wants to or not. Every time the arachnid DNA starts to arise and his pupils go full black, it hits you with that same dread the symbiote used to carry. The fear of watching someone you love become something else. Except this time, there's no alien to blame. It's coming from inside him. Which is it, the spider or the man? And that's the genius of it. This gets the movie into symbiote territory, the rage, the loss of control, the fear of what you're turning into, without dragging in all the baggage of actually doing a symbiote story. You get the emotional content without the plot machinery. And I also got to call out, just like with Thunderbolts, I think what stuck with me most about this movie is how seriously it takes mental health and how it refuses to limit that to Peter. Bruce Banner is the obvious one, and bringing him in isn't a cameo for cameo's sake. He's the one person in the MCU who actually lived all of this. He knows exactly what it is to have a body that becomes something you didn't ask for when you get angry. He's Peter's mirror, and he's proof you can survive it. I loved all the moments where he was immediately, when he turns back into Bruce Banner, and he's like, did I hurt anyone? Is everyone okay? And you saw that with Peter, too, when he came down from the arachnid mode. And it shows the humanity of these characters and that you really care because they are nice guys. They're good people. Mary Jane mentions that, or I should say MJ, I'm sorry. She mentions that where she's like, that's not what I've seen. I just saw a good person. And that is the core and the heart of Peter Parker and why I love him as a character. Frank Castle is the one that surprised me the most, though, I think, because Frank isn't there for muscle and he isn't just there for laughs. Though he does get a lot of the laughs, and the odd couple bickering between these two is genuinely funny. Every single one of his scenes is both that, funny and tragic at the same time, because you can't separate Frank's jokes from what he's actually been through. Frank is a warning. He's a man with no web at all. He's what Peter becomes if the isolation and the rage win. And that's really the struggle sitting underneath every scene these two share. Keeping people safe by cutting yourself off from them versus having a web of people who actually help you carry it. Frank chose the first one a long time ago. Peter's still deciding. And MJ and Ned are not untouched either. When they come back into Peter's life, they're carrying their own scars from what happened, not just picking up where they left off. The friendship between these three is the best it's been, I think, in this whole series. And the beats about Peter's well-being, about the fact that he does not have to do this alone, are the emotional payoff the whole franchise has been walking toward, I think. And I'll say this too, it felt good to watch a movie where people appreciate Spider-Man. He doesn't always get the love he deserves in the story or outside of it. This movie gives it to him. Every one of these characters comes out better by the end. That's not a small thing for a summer blockbuster. Now let's get to the elephant in the room, Sadie Sink. Okay guys, this is a spoiler-filled episode, so we can say it. Sadie Sink is Jean Grey, and she's fantastic. I was kind of hesitant going into it. Why would Jean Grey be a villain? That felt like a stretch to me, but they earned it. The backstory does the work. It's not that she's inherently dark. It's trauma. It's losing control of power she never asked for, and it's what that combination does to a person over time. Her turn makes sense, which means when she comes back around, that lands too. And it's that age-old mutant adage of, people fear what they don't understand, trying to control Jean and her sister in this movie because they feel like they're too much power that we don't understand. And then look how Jean rhymes with Peter. Powers that got away from her, turning into rage. That's his exact arc in parallel. The only difference is who is standing there to catch him. Peter has Ned and MJ. Jean didn't have anybody until she went looking inside Peter's head and found Aunt May waiting for her there. And hold that thought because it's the best scene in the movie, and I'm going to come back to that. The power level here is enormous. This is not a one and done villain. This is an introduction to a character that is going to play a key role in the mutant saga. If the MCU is building towards that real mutant saga, Jean Grey just got planted as a huge piece of it, and I want to know where that goes. I'm going to be following her career with great interest. Marissa Tomei, chef's kiss. Aunt May is in this movie, and yes, that May, the one who died in No Way Home. And the film doesn't undo that. She's here in, maybe 2 scenes, and the way they bring her back is my favorite storytelling choice in the entire film. When Jean goes into Peter's mind, she unlocks a memory of May, and it's not recycled footage. Marissa Tomei filmed new scenes for this, a memory we'd never seen before. Think about what that means. Jean's power is invading minds. It's the thing that isolated her, the thing that made her a threat. And inside Peter's mind, the thing she finds is May, telling her she's not alone and that she doesn't have to bear this burden by herself. Jean has no web. Her family is gone. So Peter's web reaches out to her from inside his own memory. That connection that saves her is one that Peter didn't even know he could still offer. May has been dead for 2 movies now, and she's still holding people up. That's the movie's whole thesis, delivered in one scene by a character who isn't even alive. You don't need 30 minutes of screen time to deliver the most important scene in the movie. You need the right actor in the right moment. Tomei nails it. I also got to say, Tom Holland is the other MVP alongside Cretton. The physicality has always been there in all these movies. What's different here is the emotional weight and the toll. This movie lets you feel what the job actually costs him. The collisions, the bruises, the wear and tear. But the moments that really got me are the quiet ones with MJ. Tom Holland and Zendaya put in serious work in those scenes. No suit, no action, just 2 people in a room. And I'll say it, there are emotional beats in this movie I'd call Oscar caliber. Put that together with the transformation arc, and Holland is playing a guy fighting his own body for most of the runtime, and he sells all of it. And then there's the Michael Giacchino score. This is perfect. It is tracking the emotional temperature of the film, not just underlining punches. Fantastic work from Giacchino. Now, let me make the case I promised at the top. The common take this week that you're probably going to see is that this movie juggles too many arcs, that it's 2 films mashed together, one Peter Parker story and one MCU setup machine. I understand that argument. I just didn't experience it that way. For me, everything in this movie is orbiting the same idea. Peter's isolation, his transformation, Frank's isolation, Banner's fractured self, Jean's loss of control. Those aren't separate storylines competing for space. They're all variations on the web. Cut it, and this is what happens to you. So when the movie brings them together at the end, it didn't feel like plates being stacked. It felt like the point. Now, your mileage may vary on that, but it held for me, and I'd argue that the people calling it unfocused are reviewing the movie they expected instead of the one Cretton made. Now, there is one post-credit scene for that, so you can stay all the way to the end of the credits. It's kind of a funny but vague, ambiguous thing, and I've seen a lot of people maybe building up this scene, and I don't think this is a movie that sets up Avengers Doomsday in a direct way. It's more of a hint at something somewhere down the line, and honestly, it won't make sense until you see where Spider-Man actually fits into after you've seen Brand New Day, you'll see how he fits into the Avengers plans. But I'm curious. It's a tease, not a bridge. So the ranking I gave you at the very top: No Way Home, Brand New Day, Homecoming, Far From Home. No Way Home is still number 1 in my heart, and that's less about this film falling short than about what No Way Home had. Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. 3 generations of Spider-Man in one movie. That's really hard to beat, and I don't know if they ever will top that. It's going to be very difficult. Kind of like Endgame on the Avengers side. But I want to be clear, Brand New Day isn't squeaking into second by default. It's like right under there. There's a real step up from Homecoming and Far From Home in every category that matters to me. Theme, direction, performance. It's just running into a No Way Home that was built to be unbeatable. Especially on that very first initial viewing. Whoo, man, that was some heat. What Brand New Day has is a vision. Cretton made a Spider-Man film that looks like his, it feels like his, and it still understands the character down to the bone. Add Holland doing in his best emotional work in the role, and you've got a film that stands out. The web is the people. That's what this movie is about, and that's why I loved it. Now I want to hear from you. Where does this land in your ranking, and where do you think they're taking Jean Grey next? Get into it in the comments, and keep them spoiler tagged where you can. Some people scroll before they watch. Thank you very much for watching This Comic Cooks.